Hey everybody, thank you for checking out this video. This is going to be a presentation of my tornadoes of 2019. But first, before we get into that, let's start off with a little bit of background about how this year started off. I've lived in Denver my whole life, and last year I was working, big boy job, 60 hours a week, didn't have a lot of time to storm chase. I took a few days off in May 1st and May 2nd, and got the tornado near Tesca. Was happy about that. Ended up being able to chase quite a few weekend setups close to home, but missed out on Michael, which was really upsetting. Missed out on a couple tornado days. Actually saw quite a few tornadoes for how much I was working. I got really lucky with stuff being on the weekend and relatively close to home, but I was feeling pretty bummed out about missing Michael. Plus, I was just not overly happy with where I was at and felt the need for a change. So I decided in late 2018 that I was going to move to Oklahoma and start a new career there. Young, might as well do it now if I'm ever going to do it. So I decided that was going to be the case and went through with it. March is when I left Colorado, and I got a nice parting gift at the beginning of 2019 with a large blizzard that we chased, and was actually very, very entertaining. It felt like we were chasing a low-end hurricane. We were able to put our backs up to the wall at the hotel, similar to what we did in Harvey. You can feel the building shifting back and forth, which was pretty incredible, and just an overall really fun experience. But not long after that, we were chasing. We chased some supercells in the Texas Panhandle a couple weeks after that. Saw some maybe NATOs from that event, but mostly just some nice high base structure to start off the year. And from there were a lot of back and forth chases to Dixie. In fact, I think the first one may have been in February, and then we did another one in March and April maybe. I'm not quite sure on the dates because those are rather forgettable. It seems that we never really scored too big down there. I've only seen a very small handful of tornadoes down there that I can actually confirm were tornadoes. So that was one of the things that started getting us burnt out pretty quickly, was the fact that I was, so close to Dixie compared to Denver. So we were more enticed to chase those. And this year in 2020, I'm going to try not to do that as much. But anyway, let's move forward. So my first tornado of 2019 was a bit of a surprise. I was down working in southwest Texas in the Midland, Odessa area, and supercell developed west of town, and I thought, well, my luck's not been going so well this year. We had a few chase days prior to me going down there. April 30th, we missed the tornadoes that were northeast of Wichita Falls, Texas by a little bit. Got there just a bit too late, and by the time the storm crossed the Red River, it was just completely dead and evaporated right over us. The next day we decided we're going to leave early, we're not going to be late. I did have some work to do, and I scheduled an appointment for 11 a.m. in Lawton because I'm an independent claims adjuster, so I had a claim down there, and thought that would give us plenty of time to get to our target, which was south of Wichita Falls. But storms developed really early in the afternoon. Like initiation was at like 1 or 1:30 or something stupid, and there were tornadoes on the ground not long afterwards. So by the time we got down there, everything was done, and it was completely, the day was completely over, even though it was only like 3 o'clock. So that was a bummer. So I was just kind of in the mindset of I can't do anything right, and I'm not going to see anything. It's just kind of that funk you get in when you have a few back-to-back misses like that. But anyway, so there I am down in southwest Texas. I was going to my next claim, and I noticed a supercell off to my west. I thought, well, I'll take a little detour here after this claim. So got that wrapped up, and lo and behold, as I'm trying to get out of Odessa, a little funnel starts poking down. I had to scramble to grab my camera, and it apparently was a tornado. I could not confirm that based on my vantage. I was very far away, and I was having to look between trees and houses and stuff, but somebody in an oil rig out there posted a video of the funnel basically directly overhead and a little swirl going past their rig there. So technically got to check that one off as my first tornado of the year, and it was kind of just interesting seeing a tornado while technically working. So that was kind of fun, but the real fun came a few days after that. I was able to chase some supercells in West Texas the next day that were really photogenic, but dew points were just a little too low for tornadoes. But on May 5th, we had a pretty solid looking setup on our hands. There was a dry line just west of Lubbock that extended all the way up towards Amarillo, and I was kind of still in that mindset of, I can't really make any right decisions, and I really was pretty confident in the Lubbock area, but I thought, well, I might as well do the opposite since I can't do anything right this year, and I might as well go to Amarillo because that's where it'll happen. But eventually I got out of my little funk, and I decided that I was going to stick with my guns and waited just east of Lubbock for storms to fire, and they did. And there was an outflow boundary from the storms the previous day lingering, and the storm went crazy once it latched onto that. And there's cool radar imagery that shows it reaching down and latching to the outflow boundary. So that was pretty exciting. Obviously, you've seen the video on my channel. Probably I've posted a lot of it. It was an incredible tornado. Probably one of my top 5 singular favorite tornadoes ever. Might even be top 3. Just an incredibly slow-moving, photogenic tornado. And the, double wall structure with the inner tube was just phenomenal. That was one of those things where you're rolling up to it with your jaw drop, just going, am I actually seeing this right now? It was definitely incredible and definitely one of my favorite tornadoes of the year and ever. So that was fantastic. Around that time, we were really excited for May 7th, which was 2 days later. It looked really good on the models. It looked like a classic triple point in the Amarillo area. And as the day got closer and, day of, it just didn't look quite as good. There was a lot of convection north of the warm front that was just perpetuating and didn't really seem to go away. And, we kind of had to adjust our target further south along the dry line. So by the time we got there, the storm had already produced a tornado, and we were getting in position. Beautiful wall clouds started developing and had really nice rotation, and was pretty confident we were about to see a tornado. And then RFD started wrapping around and obstructing our view, which was a real bummer because it was one of those times where you knew it was about to plant something. So we tried to reposition back to the north. Had we stayed at our first stopping point earlier on that storm, we would have had a great view, but of course I was trying to be aggressive and get closer, and it wasn't quite ready to produce a tornado yet. So anyways, we had to backtrack and go north, and we got a very poor view of this, rain-wrapped kind of cone tornado that developed southwest of Tulia. And then another tornado developed a few minutes later, kind of on the RFD gust front, and it was a little cone tornado that reached down, and got a little bit better video of that. But after that, the storm became a complete HP mess and just was not very good as far as tornadic potential, for at least for anything visible. There was probably some tornadoes embedded in there, but we couldn't see them, so we just kind of enjoyed the structure and made our way back to Oklahoma. And after that, it was a bit of a dry spell. We didn't see much of anything until a couple weeks later in Nebraska. Now, this day was exciting because it looked like a definite tornado day. We really were thinking southwest Kansas for a while, and, the meteorology said that there was a good chance of storms developing just because of the timing of the shortwave on a really sharp dry line, great moisture, convergence. It just seemed like, it seemed inevitable, but none of the cams showed any precip, and we got really scared by that. And, who wants to bust completely on a day that has so much potential? So we decided to go further north towards the surface low in Nebraska where convection was more likely, and it ended up being a pretty good choice. Both areas ended up getting tornadoes. Would have been a little less of a drive had we stuck with our guns and went to southwest Kansas, but can't complain about a day where you see tornadoes. We kind of lingered a bit too long close to the surface low on I-80 with a few storms that just ended up shooting north of the front, the warm front, and never did anything. So we were in the core during the McCook tornado, so we didn't see that one, unfortunately. But by the time we repositioned and broke out of the core again, going due east here on the highway, you can see a nice wall cloud to our south, and that eventually ended up producing this big dusty tornado that we had a pretty decent view of. It was kind of far away, and we were still kind of in the rain, but it ended up turning into this beautiful slender cone, elephant trunk type tornado, and was just really enjoyable to watch. We got our best view as it was roping out, and we finally kind of got out of the rain there with really nice contrast, and the tornado roped out and right in front of us. Now, as we got further east and north for the new cycle, I really thought we were going to have a front row seat for a great tornado close range. However, the thing just would not condense. As you can see here, this mezzo is just ripping. The clear slots punching around. We had RFD winds probably close to 60, 70 miles per hour at one point, hurling corn stalks and bending signs over next to us. So that was, it was an intense experience. And there was technically a tornado underneath that at times because there were little dirt swirls and, you could see debris getting lofted up every now and then, but it never fully condensed until it got well east of the highway. And here you can see the funnel coming down, meeting a debris plume, and then quickly getting wrapped in rain as we entered the core, since this was to our due east and we were heading north, basically straight into the core to reposition. By the time we broke out, the tornado, I believe that one actually had lifted and there was a new tornado, kind of a dusty one near Kozad, and we caught the tail end of that, and then this other little anticyclonic dusty tornado type thing that was nothing really to write home about. But the tornado near Farnham was really enjoyable, nice tornado, got some decent video of that, and we were happy with the day. So we returned back to Oklahoma the next day, saw some cool structure, and got ready for the big high-risk day, which ended up being May 20th. Everybody was really, gung-ho on that, and it was kind of a boom or bust type setup, which most high risks are anyway. We decided that we were going to play Southwest Oklahoma, as we didn't want to have to deal with the Red River, and we thought there might be some warm air advection supercells out in the open warm sector, and those really did try to happen. We had quite a few towers going up and storms trying to form, and one did northwest of the metro. There was that twin tornado supercell near Piedmont, I believe, and that was just one of the ones that was able to kind of break the cap and really take advantage of the environment around it. And had that happen to all the other little storms that were developing in southwest Oklahoma, probably would have been a really big tornado day. But one of the things I think impeded it, other than the cap being a bit stronger than some models forecasted, was the overspreading of the anvils from the Texas storms, which developed really early, that kind of seeded the atmosphere and didn't allow for further destabilization. So we ended up just sitting kind of southwest Oklahoma, waiting for the storms in Texas to make their way to us, and I knew that we didn't want to get south of the Red River, so we had to sit and patiently wait. And finally the storms came to us. They didn't look that great at first, but then eventually we saw a tornado far off in the haze and thought, well, this thing's clearly getting its act back together. So we got into position, and not long after that, the Mangum tornado dropped just to our north. Unfortunately, there was a little river in the area that did not allow us to get close to it, and the chaser traffic, even though we avoided the bulk of it, we still got caught up in some of it as we were going into Mangum here. We got a nice view of the tornado in the cemetery kind of southwest of town, as it was a nice big stovepipe. And as we got into town, the tornado started roping out, and we kind of had to weave our way through town and find the north road that went out of town, and it roped out right in front of us, and you can see it crossing the road here. And unfortunately, it did sideswipe a structure on the north side of town here. Thankfully, only minor damage, it appeared, as the tornado began to dissipate off in the distance. Now, after this, we repositioned to the north and east for the next cycle, which did end up producing a really quick cone tornado. It didn't last very long, but then this guy just decided he wanted to stop right in the middle of the road and get some video, so we had to dodge him, nearly hitting him at like 60 miles per hour, which was really fun. But the storm then produced a 0.2 second long tornado a little further east. It's one of the quickest tornadoes I've ever seen. It condenses for like literally a second or two. You'll blink and miss it, but it was another one that I guess you can check off if you want to. I'm not sure if I've included that one in my official count for this year, but it was a tornado. So anyways, the day was just about over at that point. Everything was HP and becoming just a mess. So we went home and, took the day for what it was. Pretty successful day, kind of underwhelming, but we still saw a tornado, so really can't complain too much. So the next day was May 21st, and we chased in central Kansas. However, we were impeded by some pretty nasty flooding that we were just not able to get around, and that kind of set the tone for the next day because there was really bad flooding in northern and eastern Oklahoma, and we were worried about not being able to keep up with storms on roads, so we were hoping something might fire to the southwest. But in the morning I looked at everything and figured we'd better go east. So I took us east on 40, and we waited east of Shawnee for a long time, and we had a lot of little beans go up and never really do anything, and I was starting to get a little nervous that we were going to miss something maybe further north. But we stayed there for a while and watched these, turkey towers go up, and then the storm in southwest Oklahoma went up and caught everybody's attention. Flying eagle, nothing to worry about flooding wise. It just seemed like the right choice. So I made the mistake of leaving our perfect position east of Shawnee and going west into Oklahoma City. Now, by the time we got in Oklahoma City, it became clear that that storm was having issues. So I sat there for a while, didn't know what to do, didn't know if we should wait for that, didn't know if we should go back east. And eventually we made the decision that, we need to probably go back east. It was too late at that point. Unfortunately, the storm was already getting ready to produce tornadoes, and we just basically played catch up with it the entire time, even though if we had stayed in our position, we would have literally been right there when it started producing tornadoes. But that's the way it goes sometimes, and I was not ready to give up on the day since there was still opportunity. We followed the storm until it was basically dead, but other supercells started developing to the west of Tulsa. So we got on those and followed those for a while. They became really HP and didn't do a whole lot. And then this kind of tail end Charlie storm developed, and I didn't really think much of it, but it was on our way home, and all of a sudden it got a really nice hook shape. We sat on this kind of overlook for this reservoir to the southwest of Salina, Oklahoma, not Kansas, Salina, Oklahoma. And this well-sculpted supercell presented itself, and within a few minutes we had a nice stovepipe tornado that was kind of intermittent. Looked like it maybe went through a multi-vortex phase and lifted just before it went over the lake, and then I think it touched back down again because we saw some power flashes after it crossed the road just east of Salina. So it was a really rewarding tornado, despite the fact that it was nothing to write home about and not something I'm going to hang on my wall by any means, but just really rewarding in the fact that, we screwed up the day essentially, but still were able to make something out of it. So we went home with a, half smile on our face because we were still pretty bummed out about missing the Okima tornadoes, or Okima tornadoes, however you say it. So those were the last tornadoes that we saw of that little stretch. Unfortunately, work kind of caught up with me at that point, and I wasn't able to chase a lot of the final days in May that produced tornadoes. Our next tornado came a few weeks later in mid-June. It was a kind of low-end setup in Oklahoma, but actually looked pretty reasonable for the for the month and the place. In the Southern Plains, mid-June, you take what you can get. And I remember there were multiple outflow boundaries and just a ton of cape, and the storm developed in western Oklahoma. It was a beautiful kind of classic to HP supercell, and it took its time, and right about at dusk produced a pretty big tornado near the town of Putnam, and we were able to watch that from a distance. It was kind of cool, could see it in the lightning flashes, but once again, the storm itself was probably more impressive. Actually, the most impressive part of that night was the squall line that came through after that and just had some immense winds. I mean, we literally had to stop. I'm pretty good at driving in harsh conditions, but I just had to stop in the middle of the road and put my flashers on and get as far off to the side as I could because I could not see at points. It was pretty intense. After that, it was pretty much done as far as tornado season went. I was getting busier at work, so I missed out on those tornadoes that happened in Colorado and Wyoming in July and August, which was a bummer, but I was able to snag another tornado in Oklahoma on August 26th. It was I don't even think there was a tornado or south that day, and I was going out to shoot lightning, but a tornado ended up developing on the north side of Edmond, and I just happened to be pulled off at a point where I could, see the area of interest, I guess, but I wasn't really looking for a tornado. I think I just happened to glance at radar and noticed the couplet and then looked up and the tornado was already pretty much ongoing. So that was just kind of a lucky grab and really didn't expect it at all. Now, that was about it for us as far as tornadoes went for 2019. We did chase in mid-December in the Delta region and saw some possibly tornadoes. We weren't really sure if what we were looking at was the actual tornado or not, or was previously a tornado, or after dark we even had an instance where it looked like there was a tornado off in the distance, but it was blocked by a little tree, the one tree in the entire area. It just wasn't really worth counting anything from, but overall, not a bad year. Saw some good tornadoes and had some good experiences with all sorts of different types of weather, so that was really enjoyable. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this video. I know it was a bit long and it's a different format that I'm used to doing, really not scripted, and just doing more of a commentary type thing. Maybe I'll do some more of these in the future, not sure, but I do have some future projects to briefly tell you about. I did a series called Raw last year, and I'll probably bring that back at some point. It's just for those of you who like pretty much unedited chase video, just flowing through the main exciting parts of the chase. And then I am working on a new series that I'm very excited about. I can't give too much away, but I will say it focuses on older chase days. This season will be mostly 90s days and a few early 2000s. It'll include interviews and some footage, and that's all I'm going to give away. It's very exciting though, and I can't wait to give you all more details about it as the time comes closer to it being released, probably sometime in late summer or fall if I had to guess. But anyways, guys, thank you so much again for watching. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks again for all the support here on my channel. And on that note, I am signing off. I'll see y'all on the next storm.